Jamell Demons is a member of the G Shine Blood set. This is not a stage personality. This is not an actor that's playing a character. This was his real life. And this is not just in music videos. This is not just in lyrics. Because we're not going to get into that. That's artistic expression. That's not why we are here today.
This is Floyd Abrams, and this is Speaking Freely. And we're going to talk today about some really interesting issues about just how freely one can speak in circumstances in which maybe the person that you're saying it to views it as threatening, or maybe the whole world might view it as threatening. We have a guest, a wonderful guest I'll introduce to you in a moment. Mina SayWhat is with us today. Welcome, Mina. Thanks for coming.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
There's a song called Murder on My Mind, written by an individual who is now on trial for murdering two people.
Right.
Now, as a lawyer, I start
The irony.
The irony, or is it revelatory? Might it be really relevant? Might it be something? Well, I mean, suppose the prosecution tried to get that in the record in front of a jury as a way of saying, look, this is someone who is thinking about, capable of doing, maybe even oriented towards taking an act of violence. You ought to think about that as you decide whether to believe the person when he says he didn't really kill these people except in the heat of the moment. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the Murder on My Mind song in particular is a topic right now because of the YNW Melly case, which has become a big case. And it was actually a surprise to me that the prosecutors did not use the lyrics because the lyrics literally say he has murder on his mind. And it talks about him accidentally shooting his friend and his friend dying in his arms. So if you know the case, the actual case is about friends. Melly and his three friends. The prosecution alleges they were all in the car, and something ensued where two of the friends end up murdered, dead. And now they are saying it was Melly, an artist, who did it. So I was surprised that they didn't use the song. But the irony of the song is it wasn't even created after he committed this murder. It was created before. So
that
if you
might make it even more incriminating. I mean, I'm thinking of murdering someone. On a purely legal level, I could see a judge, if the prosecution had sought to use the title and maybe the words of the song, I could see a judge saying, that's so prejudicial. This is a work of art we're talking about. Unless
Right.
you can show me, prosecutor, that there is some sort of relationship between that song, when it was written, when the alleged crime occurred, things like that, I'm not going to allow the jury to be misled, polluted, as it were, by having it, hearing about that. But what's your reaction as to whether it? Let me put it now in terms that we all use with each other. Would it have been fair, in your view, if the prosecution had put it in evidence and it came into evidence?
I don't think it would have been fair because the evidence doesn't prove that it was a premeditated murder. So if the evidence is proving something, I understand why you would want to use it. But this evidence doesn't prove that. The evidence from this particular crime, this crime was messy. It was not well thought out, not well planned out. the forensic evidence, the pictures of the vehicle. The two defendants claim that they were victims of a drive-by shooting, and the evidence points to the shooting actually happening from within the car. This was not well thought out. This was not well planned out. So this is not it. The evidence from what I've seen does not indicate murder one. Premeditated murder. So if you wanted to argue that the song was a reflection of Melly's state of mind, that it was a premeditation of him actually murdering his friends, I would hope that the evidence suggests that. In my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, Mr. Abrams, please, but in my opinion, that evidence does not suggest that this was a premeditated murder. So why would you use the lyrics? Only if you wanted to
let me just interrupt and ask you, is the prosecution arguing that it was a premeditated murder?
They've charged him with murder one. So not manslaughter, not second degree. This is a double murder. So in knowing that, going into this trial, and I follow it every day on the Law&Crime Network on YouTube, I am watching every day. And I am not seeing that evidence. The only evidence that I see that really beyond a reasonable doubt ties Melly to these two particular murders are a text message that the prosecution claims they have. And in that text message, Melly apparently is saying, I did that. But we don't know the context of this text message. We don't know who this text message was sent to. The prosecution is arguing that this is coded language. But again, until this point, I haven't seen any evidence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that Melly was the one who committed these murders. There were 4 men in the car. 2 men are still alive. So when you're arguing for murder one and you're trying to give someone the death penalty, you have to convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt that this man committed this murder. The forensic evidence that I've seen does not suggest that. The witnesses that they've put on trial does not suggest that. There's a lot of language from a lot of their experts. Might, should, could. None of this is definitive. So I haven't seen the prosecution connect the dots the way that they should in order to prove that it is a premeditated murder in order for them to use the song. I think it's a very careless carrying out of judgment when you try to introduce a piece of art, a piece of music into a trial to characterize the person that is defending themselves as a violent person, a bad person. Where is the evidence? This is not about what we think about Melly or his friends. Well, because now you're talking about people making judgments. This is about, is the evidence there and who committed the murder? You're
absolutely right. And perhaps that's the reason why the prosecution has not sought to put it into evidence, right? I mean, you would think that a prosecutor, if he or she could justify getting it in evidence, would make a pass at it. And so maybe that's the reason why they haven't. Well, let me come back while I have you to the broader issues of language and the like. You are an expert. I would think
I'm not.
I would think of hiring you as an expert to testify about rapper language, right? But is there a way of viewing it which is simply to explain that it's the way a significant minority group in our society communicates with each other? I mean, that it's not overly aggressive, even when the language is strong. What do you think?
I don't like to characterize certain people as a certain way. As I mentioned, there could be law-abiding citizens in the community that have never done anything. However, they're surrounded by violence and drugs because that's what's in their community. I do want to give you some insight. A lot of these songs, these rap songs, they are not being written solely by the artists. And that is a fact. It's actually a very spirited debate in our community. And the debate is, are you less of a rapper if you don't write your song completely? Because the reality is a lot of people are not writing their songs completely. And in fact, there is another court case happening, a RICO court case with Young Thug. And it's a YSL. So Young Thug is an artist. He has a label called YSL. The state is alleging that YSL is actually a criminal gang. And the music label is a cover up for this criminal gang, correct? So they're actually using some of Young Thug's lyrics in this actual trial currently. And I want to point out the one song that they've recited in open court, and it was kind of very hilarious to see the judge say these lyrics in a very monotone way.
I'm
that
sure
particular
the judge would look the way I look.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like that particular song, there's 5 people credited on that song as writers. So how do you prove who wrote what? Because again, this is an art form. This is a collaboration. This is music. You know, some rappers are very gifted. Some are not. And some rappers are responsible for all of their lyrics, and a lot of them are not. And that is the truth in our community. So how would you prove that this particular person wrote this particular lyric, this particular song, when it's a collaborative effort? And I'm speaking broadly. Right. I'm speaking broadly. I'm not, that particular song, I know for a fact that there are 2 producers credited on that song that was used in open court, credited on that particular song. So how do you know what lyrics the producers are responsible for? They have these things called ghostwriters, Mr. Floyd. And it's very controversial in our community, in the music, the hip hop community, where people write lyrics and they're ghosts. They never credit themselves. They never tell you their name because this is an art form. Unfortunately, Melly it was raised by a single mother. She had him when she was 14, raised him in poverty. He's been in and out of mental institutions. The reality is, as a young Black man, murder is on his mind. He is constantly out in the world thinking about protecting himself. Who is trying to hurt him because he's an artist, because he has money. The sad reality is people that are Black, and especially Black men, have a real fear of being out in the world. You can get stopped by the police one day and not come home. So why wouldn't murder be on his mind when literally this is his life? This is what he thinks about. This is what he sees.
Do you think that hip hop, rap, is going to continue as a part of all American culture? Or do you think there's a reasonable chance it might just fade away and be succeeded by some other form or forms of music?
I think hip hop is forever. Hip hop and is celebrating their 50-year anniversary. I feel like as long as hip hop is making music that is the voice of certain communities, then it will be around forever, because those communities will be around forever. And as one last thing, I really want to caution people that are okay with using rap lyrics in trial. I think it's very dangerous. And prosecutors and attorneys, they need to do their job correctly. And what I mean by that is gather evidence. People should be convicted with evidence, not with art, not with freedoms of expression, evidence. Because what happens is you water down the process if you allow people to characterize individuals with their art, with their music, and you open the door for people to be improperly incarcerated. There's one particular case, Mr. Floyd, his name is Mac. He was signed, this is a long time ago. This happened before I think I was, listening to hip hop. He was signed to a label. He was a part of a label called No Limit Soldiers. He was in a club one day and there was a shooting in this club. He's a registered gun owner, bought all his guns legally, has no criminal record in the state of Louisiana. There's a shooting. He's scared. He pulls out his own registered gun that he has a right to bear. And because people saw him with a gun, they said he was the shooter. And in court, they used his song lyrics as a way to characterize him as a bad person, as a person with guns. That man is now serving 30 years for manslaughter in Louisiana. He was convicted using his own song lyrics. And to this day, he says he is innocent.
Look, thank you very much. You are a guest who needs no question. I could have just sat here and listened, and for the most part, I did. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Mr. Floyd. I'm passionate about this.
No, that's why we asked you to be on. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you.